Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Crazy Canuck Truckin' Podcast. I am one of your co-hosts. I am the Size Matters Dakotan because I get to do this with
the Crazy Canuck Dave. Hey, Size Matters, how's things today?
Things are fabulous. You know, I feel a little tune in my head, something along the lines of "Happy birthday to us, happy birthday to us." And why would I sing that?
Well, it's been a year since we started doing all this stuff. Isn't that crazy? Like, we've been doing this a year. I wouldn't say we're not wildly popular, but
We're
we
not
are in our
wildly
own
professional.
minds. We're not. No. But we actually had. So I was running through Saskatchewan yesterday when So we're recording this in the middle of May, and I was going through Saskatchewan, and I had a guy call me up, and you'll remember his name, Stan Campbell.
Oh,
from Trucker Radio. And he says,
Trucker
Dave,
Radio.
I love that interview with AJ. And so that was really nice to hear from Stan in the middle of Saskatchewan that he liked the interview with AJ, and he might end up putting that one on one of his episodes. So we'll see how that goes.
Good.
That's awesome.
It's kind of cool. And
Yeah,
it
Stan's
was
a good guy.
Yeah, very good guy. So
And today, again, folks, besides the fact that we would love for you to reach out to us via Twitter, Instagram, and email at Crazy Canuck Truckin', don't forget that when you do that, give us those tips and ideas, things that you like, things that you'd like to see more of. And a 5-star rating wherever you get your podcast is awesome. Now, all of that business stuff is out of the way. That means we get to talk to the other voice on the line, a friend of ours, Bruce Outridge. David, do you want to do any bigger introduction for Bruce?
That's it. That's all it's required.
okay, we're done. No, just kidding.
Yeah, we're done. Podcast is over. Show's done.
Because we're having, first day with my new tongue here, I guess, trying to get this out here, but because it's 1 year past for us, and it was very special to have Stan comment on us, and he's been very supportive through this year. But Bruce Outridge has been a huge support for us and has been always retweeting, resharing our stuff, commenting on our stuff. And I wanted to have him on our 1 year anniversary because of that. So thank you, Bruce. I'll say that right off the top. Thank you very much for everything you've done for us. And you have not tried to push us away because we're another trucking podcast, infringing on your territory.
My territory is already infringed. No, you know what? It's you guys are doing a good job, and it's good to see people doing things for the industry for sure. So thanks for having me on. This is great. I'm glad that I'm able to be whatever number I am. 12 months.
12 months. Yeah.
So how much fun is it for you, Bruce, to be the guy who gets interviewed for a change? Normally, that's not your spot.
This week, I have about 3 of them that are all interviewing me, which doesn't happen. Like usually it's the other way around. And I'm always happy to be on it. I'm on a lot of other people's shows, not necessarily in trucking though. I get interviewed on podcasts all the time, a lot of times about podcasting, and content creation and stuff like that. So I get a lot of that. But no, it's always fun to be on a trucking podcast. Always fun to be with people I know, and I've known of David for a long time, and so it's always fun to be on shows where people that you've seen and respected over the years. So it's really cool.
Yeah, no, the first memory I have of the name Bruce Outridge is of an artist.
Was it jail? Do I owe you money? We say, do I owe you money?
If this keeps up, I will be volunteering to take the money.
Bridget's real quick with that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But
we've already got rid of one.
So,
your teammate's gone. She said, I've had enough of this guy already.
She's listening.
Yeah.
So Bruce, I got 2 questions. When did you start drawing? And when did you realize you had talent you had to work with?
Well, I started drawing when I was 10 years old. And then I went trucking when I was 17 and didn't get back to drawing until I was 36. So there was 18 years there. I didn't do anything with drawing. I went back. 2006 is when I started drawing. I guess 2003 to 2006, I started drawing professionally. And that's a big part of our business to this day, with a lot of stuff being on the trucking industry. And I don't actually share as much cartoons as I should, because I'm too busy sharing everything else that people are tired of me already. So I just try to get into that. But no, I've been drawing, driving, and drinking are the 3 Ds that I seem to be very, I don't know if that's a good thing or not, but
this is why we're friends so far. I'm totally in on this. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's really
cool. And then
cool,
if we go to E, it's every kind, and then food is the other one. So drinking, and eating is, I'm good with all of that stuff. Right?
We're hitting a lot of them here. We're hitting a lot of them.
They're all in a row. They're all in a row. Yeah.
And that, so where you didn't go directly from trucking to drawing, you must have had some overlap, or tell us what that was like.
No, I wanted to be a cartoonist, and the teachers at school said you cannot be a cartoonist. You have to get a real job, because my family was accountants. My mom worked for the airline. Being a cartoonist, nobody said, there was no internet, of course, back in 1970, so I left school. I dropped out of school at 17 and had to get that real job. And my real job was finding a job working for Atlas Van Lines, humping furniture. Humping furniture is when you carry it in and out of the house legally, not illegally. And I started doing that. And then I thought, hey, you know what? The driver's lifting less and making more money, and the boss. So I thought I'll get my D license. I had that for a couple of years. And then I got my A license and owned a truck right after getting my A license, which is crazy. I wouldn't suggest that for anybody, but I did that for a couple of years. And then I finally moved to the freight side of the industry, probably about 7 years. So I was about 7 years in the bed bugger industry, as we call it, before moving over to the freight side. And I've been in the freight side ever since. So,
yeah. Very cool. Yeah. Very cool. I do a little bit of that stuff these days, and I'm very glad for the lumpers humping furniture, because I don't do any of that. I don't stack my own trailers. I'm third parties. I show up with a trailer.
It has got to be, I tell everybody when they're young to go into that industry. I learned so much in that industry that I could, you learn customer service, you're dealing with the public. The company, I went from Atlas to North American, back to Atlas, and then back to North American a couple times. But at North American, even as a driver, as a straight truck, they would allow you to operate as though you were an owner-operator. So I drove the company truck, and I was paid by the hour around town, but then they would let you go to Montreal or Ottawa or somewhere with a load, and I would have to hire my own help, figure out, and I would get paid percentage for that particular highway run. And so it taught me that little bit of owner-operator and how to negotiate with people and deal with help and that kind of thing, and figure out your fuel mileage and whether you're going to make any money or not. And it was really cool. And they would revolve that around all the drivers. So I would get it 1 month and another driver would get it the next month, and however many loads we had. So over the course of a year, you made a little more money than whatever we were making at the time, $12 an hour or whatever it was. But we were, you kind of felt like you were in business. You were getting out of town. It was a comfortable way to do it, right?
So I want to go back to the drawing and so forth for a minute, because I had some questions about that.
You always do, Bridget. You always
I do. Well, what's your favorite thing to draw? What is the thing that if you pick up a pencil and you want to go back to it, what's the first thing that you start drawing?
What I do professionally is caricatures and cartoons. So you see at theme parks, that's what I do for weddings and corporate events here in Canada. And I'm usually very busy at that. I probably do 100 to 120 weddings a year, and events a year, not during COVID. Apparently there's none, down to zero. But as far as what I would like to relax doing is I do landscape art. So I like to draw old buildings and churches and stuff like that, which is basically how I started my art career, because that's what I was doing. I was, drawing people's pets. I was drawing landscapes, and that's how I started. Then I switched to cartooning probably around 2008, and I've been pretty well in that sector the whole time. So as far as relaxation, the landscapes, buildings, those kind of things, I teach art here in the area a lot. I've had a couple classes going on in Oakville here. So there's a lot of, I'm still very involved. I'm involved in a lot of different things. It's going to be a long interview if you're trying to figure out my whole life. It's going to be very, very long.
Every time I see you tweet or talk about something, or I just keep running across one more facet, one more thing that Bruce Outridge does. The thing that I've noticed that you don't do is you don't sleep. So congratulations.
I do sleep. I sleep 8 hours. I sleep 8. My wife says I sleep too much. I sleep very well. I'm exhausted when I go to sleep. That might be why, but I sleep very well.
Yeah, that's probably it.
I'm up very early. I'm a morning owl. I love to be up at 5, 6 in the morning, and I'm in bed by 10 o'clock. Do not call me at 10:30. I will be sleeping. My wife is the night owl.
Okay.
My wife's the night owl. She doesn't believe in going to bed before midnight. So it works out good. In the morning time, I get my writing time and all of that kind of stuff. And she watches TV at night, and we've been married 20 years. It's working. I'm not about to mess it up.
I'd say that's fair. Very fair.
I like to live indoors.
Every time I see what Bruce does, I get tired. He does way too much.
It certainly seems that one thing leads to another, but do you think what's the overlap between the art career and trucking?
Well, a lot of my art is on the trucking career. So I'm either drawing trucks or I'm drawing about the lifestyle of the truck driver. I'll get commissioned. When I started my art business, I was going to do illustration for trucking magazines. Road Today, I've been in there for a number of years, a number of them I've been in. But it's fun to do. It's a hard market. You make a lot more going and working a wedding event doing that. That's where your money really is. So right. I don't do as much cartooning. I used to have a comic book series out that were with the hero was a truck driver, and I've done a lot of things over the year. I don't do as much anymore as far as the cartooning. I still have lots, so I'm always sharing, but it's usually about truck driving. So the overlap is, if I didn't have that trucking experience, I wouldn't be able to draw about the career the way that I do. I don't know if you know Tramp Warner there, David. He's an artist here in Ontario, and he's a pinstriper. So when Tramp and I are at shows together, Tramp is very good with the trucks. He does cartoon trucks too, but his stuff is all the trucks. He's never driven. I could be in the booth next to him, and my art is all about the driver. We both do trucks, but mine's more about the driver than that. So it seems to work.
Well, some of you may see me taking some notes here, and I'm just trying to figure out what my dues are going to be for the Bruce Outridge fan club. I mean, eventually I'm going to have to send a check somewhere. Maybe it's just Venmo, but I'll get it all written down.
I have 7 websites just for our business. So if you're trying to figure out which one is, and I take care of all of them. Yeah.
And he just wants me to send 7 different places money.
If you can send 7 checks, that would be helpful.
Okay.
7 checks will definitely work.
Okay.
No, we've got 3 different businesses. So my wife and I handle all the businesses. We're the only 2 employees. We have Bruce Outridge Productions, which is the art and video production, and I do video production for events, the caricatures. That's Bruce Outridge Productions, the art-based stuff. Then I have Outridge Consulting, which is the podcast. I do training for some of the truck driving schools here in Ontario, that kind of stuff. And then my wife does English-French translation. She's got a translation business. So all 3 of those businesses are under one umbrella of Outridge Enterprises. And then they each have their own marketing and differences. So you probably see me more with the podcast because that's content that comes out every day, but the other ones are just as busy. She's been going crazy with COVID, so she's doing well.
Yeah, it's so let's get back to when you were told
now
that
you don't know where to start.
Yeah. Well, the beginning always seems to be a good place for me. I like history and I like learning from history. I like talking about history. And so I know you said doing the household goods move was very good training for you.
Yep.
But what do you think now, career advice for people coming up that, like with yourself, you wanted to be a cartoonist and you got pushed away from that very hard. What do you say now, or what do you think of that advice?
Well, see, I have a big problem with the way that people come into the industry. There's a big fight right now that there's no place for new people. I really think we need to make this a skilled trade. Like to me, should be the forefront of making this as a skilled trade for people, because they're saying, well, there's nobody coming in that off the farm. There's nobody coming in that's leaving school. I know in the U.S. the big debate is, do you want 18-year-olds driving tractor trailers around? Yes, you do. We are, if you give them that place to go in a career path, then we can do that. That's what we're not showing them in the industry. We're not showing them a career path right now. You just get in and you drive for 50 years, that doesn't sound like much fun to anybody. Work 14 hours a day, drive 13 of them. like it's not fun for anybody. But anybody that's been on the road for a while, myself, the old days, it was a lot of fun on the road. We had a ton of fun on the road. You knew everybody. People waited for each other. They helped each other out. It was a lot of fun. So it didn't seem like drudgery for 14 hours a day. But I think we've got to, and when you're in there, when you come out of the seat, then you see all the opportunities, like, being on a podcast or being a safety person, or someone like Leanne who's gone into operations. All those kind of things happen once you get your experience in the seat. But the kids don't see that. They don't want to get in the seat first because they just see that as the work. They don't see the opportunities. We have to show them more of the opportunities, which is where I think skilled trades would come in to effect, because that's now something you can build on. You get another course, whatever, and you keep building to where you come out at the end with some kind of track record to say, here's what I've done. I've been in this industry 40 years, and other than some letters and a couple course certificates that I've taken, there's really nothing to show my 40 years of experience other than, if I wasn't on a podcast, you wouldn't know anything about me for all those years of trucking, right?
Yeah, that's true.
Okay. But like when you said, we were talking about people coming into the industry, making it a skilled trade. So how are we going to do that? What are the steps that we're going to do to get that to happen? Because from my perspective in the ag industry right now, one of the biggest hangups we have is having enough trucks and drivers to get product where we need it to be. So how do I entice more people to come in?
Well, yeah, we're trying to get them in to take product, but then where do they go after that? I know when I came into the industry, and I had no idea, like I didn't come from a trucking family. My parents were from Guyana. They came up the year before I was born, and then I was born in Canada here. I knew nothing about trucks. I didn't have any idea of even what trucks did, but I liked to drive. At the age of 16, I was at the license office getting my license. So I like to drive. So where are those people? What are we doing with those people that like to drive? Maybe we should be funneling them into that kind of industry. And then once you get in there, I always thought 25 years. I always said, I don't know why. I just said, when I'm 45, I want to stop driving. I have no idea why. I didn't hate it. I love trucking. I don't know why. But I did. At 43, I got out of the truck because I became a supervisor of a fleet. But I never thought about it. 25 just seemed like a long time. So if we're telling people to get in at 20 and we're not showing them that at the age of 45 or so, here's where you could end up. Here, if you take some tracks, you can end up with courses. You can get into operations. They don't see that. When you're 20, Friday night is like a long way away. So when you tell them 20 years of trucking, you've lost them already, right? And we've got the same point. But if they can come in and they can enjoy it, they will bring in their friends. Like we keep bringing in the next. Right now, we're not bringing in anybody new. So there's nobody there telling them this is an awesome, place to be. They don't believe us because they consider us old. So my kids say, that's why we're not getting anybody new. We need, so, and I mean, if you think of the way our industry is, we want them at 18. We're now arguing that they can't drive a truck. They can drive a car, and then they can't do anything until 25. So why would they stay around to drive a truck for 7 years after? We got to make it so that they can get in the industry at 18. And whatever that is, whether it's just driving straight trucks within Ontario, that's still a start, right? And then they could say, because if you think of anyone who built it up in the industry, that's how we started. I didn't go from here to chemical driver for a fleet. I went to straight truck driver, and then I went to, the next thing up was a city local guy, and then I got my license. There's no graduation right now. Everybody gets in, they get into a big truck, and then they have an accident because they're not used to driving. Whereas if we got them in and start moving people through the funnel, so that older person at the other end is saying, okay, you know what? I'm about to get out of the seat. Where do I go? Because I know that's what happened to me. When I went to the chemical company, that's what I was looking at. I'm going, okay, what next? At that point, I'd been driving. I think I had been probably about 12, 15 years in my career. I was already driving the biggest Peterbilt they can give me. I already had a dedicated trailer. They kind of said, Bruce, here's where you go. I was making good money for what I was doing. There was really nothing left. The next step would have been becoming an owner-operator, which I didn't see the big need for that. But I also wanted something that, I could grow on. And there was so I left for a small mom and pop company. And trust me, Dave, I know you said this the other day. I love mom and pop companies as much as you do. They are fantastic places to work. But you have to wait for someone to die before you can move up. And everybody in my company looked pretty healthy. Nobody was dying anytime soon. And they were having kids, which means I'm probably still not in the running, right? So
don't be Googling anything about how to bump them off, because you'll get caught later.
I used to think that the only reason that you people had to go through physicals was for insurance purposes, but no, that's for promotional reference. Got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
This one gets close. This one.
Yeah. So that's why I went to a more corporate, bigger company, because there was room to grow, because I wanted to get out of the seat sooner or later. There was nowhere to go. When I looked at that, and the only thing I did wrong is I didn't talk to the company. Maybe there was a position, but all I saw was one city guy, because we all delivered our own loads. So we saw one city guy who was working 15 hours a day already. I didn't want to do that. I didn't see any options in the office. Maybe there was, but I didn't talk. So if that's how I was feeling after 12 years of being a driver in a job I love, people who are not as excited about the job, what are they seeing? They're not seeing that either, right? So we got to somehow show them that. And a small company, maybe there's nowhere to grow. So what do we do with them? Like, nobody wants to go through 20 years and then gets to nothing, and they've got nothing to show for it. They've got no big bank account. You've got no certificates. You got, no job, whatever, right? You got to think about that. What are companies looking for in a guy who's been on the road for 30 years?
Well, see, I had a little bit different pathway. I didn't ever plan on being long haul. I just wanted to run equipment that made noise. The bigger the better, and whatever that meant, And then I was running long haul in the winter times when I was farming in the summer. You're running big equipment in the summer, And with the injuries I've had and the crashes and stuff, I needed a way to make good money in a short amount of time. And working, so I progressed from being just an equipment operator into bigger stuff, and then into over the road, and into owning my own company. I started a company, and then I left there, went to a big company as a fleet manager, and then back on my own again, and had my own business. And that was my plan, to have, a business that my kids could come into, and, even if they weren't going to be drivers. But then with, the head injuries and the depression and stuff that I deal with, then that obviously wasn't very smart. So I've regressed in some ways, where I've gone from being a company owner and being somebody that can work in the office. I've gone back into the driver's seat. And
but that's a choice, right? That's because but you're not going backwards in your career. You've just gone back to that place, maybe because of family interest, but you're still growing with your podcasts and the things you're speaking about in your speaking career. That's all still growing. So you're still going in a forward direction, even if it's through the truck, right?
But what I tell people is that long haul trucking has afforded me the opportunity to make a decent amount of money. If I need to work harder, or if I need to make more money, I can work a little bit harder and I can make a little bit more money. And it's something where I can kind of set my own schedule. You know, if I'm working at a big corporation and I need to be doing this, you know, every day, you know, like some office jobs are 7 on, 7 off.
Yep.
And you're working 12 hours a day. And I could do that when I was younger prior to head injuries and keep it together. But I could imagine trying to do that today with the mental issues I deal with.
Yeah.
But with trucking, long haul, you know, I can do that. But also I have to make sure I'm taking care of myself. And, you know, the life expectancy of truck drivers is 16 years less than the average, you know, as Mark Manera likes to say.
So that makes it really exciting for someone to come in too. Basically, you're not going to live as long as everybody else because.
But if you
do you see it? Do you see any problems with the marketing of our industry? Does anybody see it? Is it just me?
No, and that's the thing. We have so many people saying all the negative stuff, but when we look at the positives of our industry, like for me, that was a big positive to go back from owning 4 trucks and running a company to being an owner. Just now, I'm just a company guy. I don't even own my own truck anymore, and I'm loving it more than ever. You know. And I also understand I need to get out of it before too long, but it is possible to do all of this and to have a lot of fun and make a decent living.
So that 16 years that you guys talked about, the shortness of a lifespan of an over-the-road driver, a couple of things. Do you think that it's different if you're the owner operator versus a company guy? Do you think that 16 years still holds true no matter which side you're on? Is it the same for men and women?
Well, wait a minute now. There's 2 different sides to this. There's the health side. There's the health side where you're just driving and sitting and not exercising, and that's why you're dying younger. There's also the one where you've had a good career, you come home, and now you're home, and you bug your wife, and she kills you 16 years late, earlier than you should. So you got to make sure you're talking about which is the right way.
Fair enough. That's an excellent clarification.
No, because when my first divorce was not because I went out on the road, it's because I came off the road. Just let's be clear how that works.
That is pretty common in trucking.
Yep.
People get along very well when they're away from each other, and then they get together and come off the road. And it's like, you know, this ain't working anymore.
You got to be careful. Careful.
Yep. I liked you when you were gone. Okay, got it.
Yeah. But getting back to your question,
start noticing.
Getting back to your question, Bridget, I think it's always an individual thing. If a company, whether you're a company guy or owner operator, you need to be taking care of yourself. You need to be doing the things that you need to do to stay healthy. I don't think that matters whether you're owner operator or company.
No, and if you looked at the average, I mean, if you think about the way we used to drive, we used to smoke within the truck. I didn't smoke, but a lot of guys smoke within the truck. The food is atrocious if you're eating at the truck stops. You don't get out of the truck for 13 hours.
Right.
It doesn't matter who you are. You're going to die.
In the old days, who never drove 13 hours, Bruce?
Nobody ever drove 13
hours in the old days. You know, we drove. I mean, that's why we had logbook A, B, and C.
Guys, this is not some sort of confessional. You don't have to tell the truth on all this stuff. Especially
statute of limitations is gone.
It's okay, they already know.
Okay, I was going to say statute of limitations. Where does that stand? Okay.
Well, that's why we have electronic logbooks nowadays, because of that kind of stuff, right?
Yes.
And we're not allowed to carry a 40-pounder beside the seat anymore.
No, apparently that's bad. Apparently. That's bad. But no. So, but I think, I mean, today, a lot of it's education, right? Back in the day, we didn't know. I used to go to the gym all the time when I was on the road. I had a gym program where I could go to different gyms. I had a stair stepper in my Peterbilt that I could work out in the dock. I used to carry my own food. Like, you can be healthy if you want to be. Not everybody chooses to do that. So it's really up to but in the general, I think just our own the world in general. Like people today that 70 look like they're 55 and 60, right? Whereas back in the day, 65 looked like 85. It was, right? So
when I was a kid, anybody that was 30 looked old.
Yeah.
No?
Yeah. I don't know. I'm actually looking to get back into it, but I can't. I've got too much stuff going on. I don't have. I've been even thinking of getting into driving one day a week for somebody, and my wife says, "So when's that going to happen?" Because I look at your calendar, and it's like booked solid. So that's not going to happen. But I'm at that point. I need to get back out in a truck, just even if it's just for an hour. I need to go drive somewhere because I haven't been on a truck for a while now. I'm starting to feel rusty, even though my mind's sharp, right? So.
Yes, you got to kind of keep it practice, you might say.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll stop by, Bruce, sometime when I'm in Ontario.
Go ahead. I'll drive you to Hamilton, and I'll get out. You can keep going.
And
I live in a building too. The problem is I live in a building, or else I would just buy a Peterbilt and just go around to the shows. But I got nowhere to park it. I got nowhere to maintain it. It would cost me more to go and buy one to keep it up than to just, if I had a farm or somewhere, that'd be different, right?
So when you say just to buy a Peterbilt, just to do for shows, much like antique cars, antique tractors, you just want to have a semi that you notice I said semi.
I need just a mobile studio to take around to the truck shows and play music and podcast.
There you go.
We have a couple of perfect trucks for you, Bruce. A couple of perfect trucks. And I could probably find somewhere for you to park it too.
Okay. Is it close to my house? I'm in Burlington, Ontario. You're out west, I think.
I could arrange it. it. It is. Yeah. I'm sure your wife wouldn't mind.
You know what? She said I could get one, but she also said she's going to Barbados. We go to the Caribbean for 2 months every year, and I'm going to keep that plan going. I think it's better for my health than getting a truck, so that's why I'm going that way.
And you can do so many of your jobs and projects when you're traveling.
That's why we set it up this way. Yeah.
Why couldn't I have talent like drawing and become a cartoonist so I could go to Barbados for 2 months every year?
You can draw and cartoon anything you want, David. It just depends if you want somebody to pay you for it, because stick figures might not be so easy to get a fee.
Have you seen how my hands shake? There would be unique characters.
Yeah, there you go.
We could call it the Wiggle Man.
There you go. Look at you're already marketing it. Perfect. Practice on Bridget.
There's a lot of questions here I'm not going to ask, so let's just move on.
Yeah.
You guys are too funny.
So what's
we're silly.
So what's the next thing that you want to do that you haven't done?
What is this bottle in your hand, Bridget? I don't see the label. It looks like a bottle of whiskey. What the heck are we drinking here? I'm thinking, how come I didn't get some?
Tea.
I drink a lot of iced tea.
I like how relaxed she is. She's like got a big bottle. She's like already in party mode. I gotta get some of that.
Nobody told me I didn't have to put anything in this bottle. I can do whatever I want over here.
It just looked like a bottle of whiskey from Canada here. That's all I was saying. Canadian whiskey's got a similar shaped bottle.
Glass bottles. It's easy to change the label.
Yeah.
She probably has a stash of those labels sitting around somewhere that she just peels off the whiskey ones and puts those on.
Who needs a stash? Yeah. It's like a koozie. I just keep wrapping a new one on the same thing.
There you go. They make them for that.
So, okay, you've done. Yeah, all right. We're talking cartoonist, caricature, podcast, trucking. So what's the thing that you haven't done yet that you want to do?
I think I'm doing it all. I just need to figure out how to make sure it, man. I don't know. I'm happy. I mean, I've got 2 podcasts, radio station, television show. I do the art. My wife does translation. We travel. We both have new cars. I don't know what else we need to do, but I think we're pretty good. Actually, that's about all we got to do.
I'm waiting for the Bruce to say, I'm going home to tell my wife that this is the next new business we have to start. So I wasn't curious if there's one left.
See that? No, that's not. I like to live indoors. That's not how it works. You think about it. You think about it for a while. You don't tell her. Before you know it, it's in place, and it's too far along for her to say no. If I go with the idea, my wife is totally opposite of me. If I go with the idea, it's going to be no, not happening. Forget it. Get out of there. So I just kind of like start it slowly on the side and then move it more to the forefront when it's appropriate. That's how that works.
You're not wrong. I may or may not have done some of the same things at my house.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we're having our first year anniversary of this podcast. Eventually, I should probably tell him I'm doing a podcast.
Yeah, if he hasn't figured it out by now. I'm still trying to get her involved in it. She's very supportive of it, but she doesn't want to be on camera or do any of that stuff. Every once in a while, I'll pull her in for an interview or something, but she's not interested in that part of it. But she handles all the admin for our business, so I don't like email and all that. That's her baby, do that stuff. But no, there's nothing really. I don't have anything. I'm sure something will come up because every year something comes up. And all I do is just try to be better than I was the year before and help more than I can. So I don't know what's going to come up, but I am sure there will be something. Actually, okay, so the next thing, so you specifically asked me, I really do have something. I'm not sure if I was going to implement it, but being a DJ. So I started the radio station.
And you're already at weddings.
There you go. I'm already there, and I'm thinking, you know what? I could easily do the DJ thing if I wanted to. I'm wondering whether I don't know if I want to though. See, the problem is with what I do when I do caricatures at weddings, I could walk in half an hour before my time, and I could walk out whenever I'm done, and I can go home. A DJ's got to be there before everybody else and leaves at the end, and I'm not sure I want to spend that kind of time. So I'm still deciding. But we'll see. We'll see where it goes. You know, it's just fun. I love music. I've always loved music. I used to be a drummer when I was a kid. I'm thinking of taking drum lessons again. I was going to just when the pandemic started, so I'm holding off. But I'd like to get back into that. I love music. I've got a real passion for music, and so that's why I started the radio station, and I'm figuring out how to incorporate that more into what we're doing. So, yeah. So there you go. There's being a DJ is your answer to your question.
All right, I got an answer to it. That's what I was going for. We're set.
Don't hold me to it though. It may not happen, but just in case it does, we'll see.
Hey, we all have to have those things that we want to give a try. I mean, personally, I'm still not a flaming baton thrower, but there could be a day and time. We just don't know yet.
Flaming.
I don't want to be one of those.
We've got the flaming part.
I don't mind lighting stuff on fire. I'll tell you that much.
That's what I'm saying.
I could throw a baton, but you really don't want to be anywhere in the area. Just go through a window. Or
oh, good news! You'll be my practice partner, Bruce. Practice.
I won't be much of a partner.
So, Bruce, when you think back on your trucking career, what is one story that you like to tell to other people? Or is there some particular thing that happened when you're on the road that was very interesting, very cool?
Well, I've got the bad one, which I tell all the students. That's the one with highway hypnosis. So whenever I'm talking about highway hypnosis in class, I always tell this one. I was on my way out to Iowa, and perfectly cool day. You know, it was bright sunshine. Everything was perfect. Truck was clean, no rush, light load, the whole bit. And I was just rolling along, and I heard over the CB, I just heard a guy say, "Here he comes," looked over, and someone had got cut off going the other way and was coming towards the truck. We ended up locking up, and we stopped about 2 inches from each other, the fuel tank, and he had a family of 4 in the car. And he was that was out of nowhere. So I talk a lot about how I didn't really realize like anything was going on. It was that zoned out that, you know, you just kind of zone out. You're not really, I was paying attention. I was just kind of saying, hey, next truck stop, I'm going to stop. But I didn't know kind of where that was. And I was just driving along, and that happened. So now I talk a lot about that in when I'm teaching new drivers that, you know, trip planning, being more aware, those kind of things. Use the CB. I'm really big on the CB. There's a lot of stories I can't tell you here, just because this
It's a family show.
It's not appropriate. And there's some good ones, but I'm not going to share those ones. Let's see. I'm trying to think of ones I can tell you. I've had a good career. I encourage drivers to do things that they like to do. Like I went airboat on an airboat ride. You know, those airboat, big fan boats. Mm-hmm. I did those. I was in, I think it was just by Beaumont, Texas, Interstate 10, and I had all kinds of time to get to where I was going, and I stopped. I said, I always wanted to do that, and I went, and the guy took me out with another family on this. He wanted beer out of the truck, but I was empty, so it didn't help him. I went canoeing in Gainesville, Florida, had an afternoon off, and just went. I like to walk. I've seen some great places as far as, cities and stuff like that. I ran a lot of East Coast. I used to run New Jersey and New York 3 times a week. My travels took me as far west as basically Nebraska. So if you were to take a line down the middle of the U.S., I was anything east of that. I used to run a lot of Florida and Texas, a lot of East Coast, a lot up to Vermont and Quebec and Ontario. And that was just the nature of our business. I never really ran out to Calgary or anything like that. When I was with the chemical company, they flew me out to Edmonton, and then I took a guy's truck and did all of his deliveries around Saskatchewan and stuff. But I never traveled out that way, like to BC, like what you're doing, Dave. So that was I never wanted to be gone that long. I only wanted to be, I wanted to be home every weekend type thing. So that's where we ran. We just ran out of Toronto within basically a 7 to 1,000 mile radius, a lot of Chicago, a lot of East Coast, that kind of stuff. So I've always seen things. I just remember the good camaraderie on the road. Like I remember we always ran 3 and 4 trucks, whether it was our company or somebody else's. There was always a lot of fun on the road. You guys would wait for each other. You kind of always had a laugh going. I don't see that on the road anymore. I imagine it's probably happening, but I don't think the new guys have that. Like we used to have, like you'd go to the 10-acre truck stop in the 401, and it would be packed. You knew every driver in there. It'd be the Quebec guys had their tables in the middle there, the round tables, we call them. And it would be the same waitresses there for 20 years plus that you knew. You knew everybody. So it was fun to go on the road. Like when you went on the road, and we would leave in Montreal, and there would be 5 of us all going towards Montreal for that night. So you all ran together, you stopped and you ate. You got to know people. Nowadays, everybody's silent. You don't seem to really get to know anybody. And I think that's one of the problems with the industry is there's no fun in it. It doesn't look like there's that fun in it. They took the bars out of the truck stops, so there can't be any fun in it now. Probably for a reason.
When you talk about all those different experiences and all the places you've been, those are things you can't do if you're working a 9-to-5 factory job or something like that, and we need to keep reminding, promoting the good stuff of our industry that, hey, there's a lot of benefits. I've seen my kids have been all over the place and, and I've done that with my oldest grandson so far. And, that's something that, they may not ever be a truck driver, but they have memories of those days of traveling, and it's been fun for them.
Even my son, my son only went on one trip with me. They've done a lot of parades and stuff with me, but he came out with me once, and he was probably, I don't know, around 5 or 6 years old when he came out with me. And I had a big Freightliner with a double bunk. And I remember the whole trip, they gave me an easy load down to Halifax and back or something like that, right? It wasn't just in Canada. And I took him, and he would steal the show. He would go, we'd get him dressed in his pajamas. He would go into the truck stop. They were giving him candy in his pockets. He made out like a bandit because we'd always phone home. We had to call mom every night. And he always wanted to sleep on the top bunk. And I kept saying, and because I was still driving, I said, you can't sleep on the top bunk. You're going to fall out. So he would just go into my bunk and I'd go to the top one. Finally, at the end of that trip, we got a night where we were both going to stop together. And I said, okay, you can sleep in the top bunk. And you know what he said? He said, no, I'll fall out. So it just proves repetition works. He heard me say that for 5
Just keep doing that. Yep.
Yeah.
But he's 32 years old, and he still remembers that trip when he took when he was 6 years old. He still remembers it. We had a good time. I could take a nap, and I'd say, don't touch any dials or anything. He would just play with his dinky cars if I wanted to take a nap for an hour or something like that. He was never had a problem. And he still remembers that. My son is very good. He gets into the lingo. He knows all the lingo, right, from the family and listening to me. So if you would think he'd been trucking for years, he's never driven. You know, but he's still got fond memories. And you know, what I find is that a lot of drivers, you ask them, would you get your family into this? And they always say no. Yet that job has kept a roof over your head and food on your table. So why don't you want them to get into it? Like, I mean, I'm not saying, you know, if they got other opportunities, I'm big on do whatever you want to do if you want to, but there's nothing wrong with trucking. I've always made really good money at it. I think my first year I made like 40 grand and I haven't made anything less than that over the years, you know. When I quit, I was at 6 figures. So there's no wrong or right. I think but I think there's a lot of benefits that people don't see. And when I talk to other drivers, they are always saying, hey man, it's like paid to travel. Well, then why aren't we promoting that more? Like, why, you know, I think people see us gone a long time, but if you look at anybody in another industry that is doing trade shows or they're banking industry, they go to conference for a week. Like people, my dad was never home any less than I, you know, was in the truck. He might have come home every night, but if you come home at 8 o'clock every night and you go out at 6 o'clock in the morning, I don't see where there's a real benefit to not. I'd rather be on the road. You know, you got more sleep.
Yep.
Well, that seems like a good place to wrap up for today.
Yeah, that's been too long already. I told you it's going to be a long show.
Torture
this is
for
perfect.
No,
Victoria had a baby.
He's already out of diapers now.
Yeah, he's going to be trucking soon.
Yeah. So
that was fun. Thanks for having me on, guys. That was so much fun.
I want to thank all of our listeners for tuning in for the last year, and for Bruce, thank you for being on the show today, and for also being such a support over this past year, and for the stuff you've done for the industry. You know,
like you, I just keep trying to move forward.
You just keep moving forward, and
that's
so
right.
Thanks to VIP and her redesigned social. So, and Bridget, Size Matters, close us out.
The size matters, Dakota.
And you know what? By the size of the notes that I have written to go along with today, I've got quite a few things going on over here. So Bruce, you just never know when you might have to be back again. Right?
Oh, I'd come back anytime. Bridget, I wish we lived closer. I could see us being good friends. If we lived closer, we would be in trouble.
We'd have some
serious trouble going. Yeah.
Absolutely.
I'd be ice fishing.
Oh, there's so many
We'd be
good
drinking
things
in
I
the day.
could teach you.
I'm already good with that. Let's start anytime.
Anytime. You all have a fabulous day and stay safe on the road.
Thanks, guys.